Your Excellency, Mr. Ahmad Fakhouri, Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, Your Excellency, Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh, President of the Talal Abu Ghazaleh Organization and Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Joe Orchestra, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, good evening. On behalf of the United Nations country team in Jordan, I would like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate the United Nations Day. Today, the United Nations is turning 70, which makes our celebration tonight a little bit more special than previous years. The theme of this anniversary is Strong UN, Better World, which captures the importance of multilateralism and the essential role of building partnerships. The global celebration, aiming to honor the historic UN's development, security, and human rights work, is taking place in a series of commemorative events and outreach activities held around the globe. Today, more than 160 iconic monuments, buildings, museums, bridges, and other landmarks in almost 50 countries around the world will be lit up blue, the official color of the United Nations. The United Nations in Jordan has also taken part in this global initiative through turning the ancient city of Petra and the Amman citadel to UN blue. In addition, this morning the United Nations country team and the Amman municipality planted 100 trees in Amman with the support of local volunteers. Our program tonight starts with the I Am 70 video on the Secretary General and by the opening remarks of Mr. Edward Kellon, the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Jordan. This will be followed by His Excellency, Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh, who has kindly accepted to sponsor the participation of the Jordan Orchestra tonight, and by our guest of honor, His Excellency, Mr. Ahmad Fakhouri. Following the opening remarks, and before enjoying the performance of the orchestra, we will display an infographic video presenting the work of the United Nations in Jordan. And for those of you who use social media, the hashtags for tonight are UN Day Joe, UN 70, and UN Blue. So I leave you now watch the I Am 70 video of the Secretary General, which is a part of a series of videos with stories of 70-year-old people born the same year as the founding of the United Nations and told in their own words. Thank you.
My name is Ban Ki-moon. I am Secretary General of the United Nations. I am 70. I was born in Korea. I was 6 years old when the Korean War started. We had to run from our homes to the mountainside. We could see my village burning. The United Nations saved my family and my country. In my time as a Secretary General, I have been moved by the horrors of humanity, and I have been inspired by his heroes. I have wept at the memorials for victims in Auschwitz, Srebrenica, and Rwanda. I have dealt with tragedies that have gone on for decades and disasters that destroyed whole societies overnight. I have also mourned too many courageous United Nations staff members who died serving the cause of peace. I'm 70 years old, but I believe in having a young mindset. This means standing up to injustice. I hope I will never be too old to ask leaders tough questions. I hope I will always have the energy to speak out for what is right. I think that keeps us young. My name is Ban Ki-moon and I am 70.
Now, I am delighted to invite Mr. Edward Callan, the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Jordan, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Mr. Callan.
Your Excellency, Mr. Imad Fakhoury, Your Excellency, Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United Nations country team in Jordan, I want to welcome you to the United Nations 70th anniversary celebration. In 1945, the founders of the United Nations aspired to build a better world. Out of the ashes of the Second World War, the birth of the United Nations was a historic moment for global peace and progress, as stated in the opening words of the United Nations Charter, and I quote, "We, the people of the United Nations, made a commitment to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of the human person." My career with the United Nations started in 1990 when I left my small country, Sierra Leone, to bring hope to Afghans who were caught in another senseless war. The situation in Afghanistan, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, reminded me of an African proverb, and I quote, "When two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers." I will never forget the day I arrived in Chacharan, one of the highest peaks of the Himalayan mountain ranges. I was holding in my arms Fatana, a young Afghan girl who was severely malnourished. As an aid worker, I could not face the reality that Fatana was actually dying in my hands. That day, we lost Fatana. But her loss gave me the strength and inspiration to work tirelessly to bring hope and smile to the Afghans suffering from that brutal war. Fatana's memory still motivates me every day. This is the spirit of the United Nations. This is our drive. Every day we feed the hungry, shelter refugees, and vaccinate children. Every day we combat climate change, fight corruption, and defend human rights for all, regardless of race, religion, nationality, gender, or sexual orientation. On this 70th anniversary of the United Nations, member states can take pride in its success on development, human rights, international law, peacekeeping, and more. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, we have to acknowledge that the vision by our founding fathers has not been fully realized. Genocide has reoccurred. Armed conflicts continue in many parts of the world. Billions of people still live in poverty. Gender inequalities, global health threats, and youth unemployment remains major concerns. However, growing membership of the United Nations over the years reflects a growing will to tackle these global challenges and to tackle them together. At its founding, the UN had 51 member states. There are now 193 member states. Since 1955, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan has been one such member state, providing an invaluable contribution to the United Nations system, to the promotion of its values and the achievements of its mission. Jordan is one of the largest providers of UN peacekeepers who put their lives on the line for our values. A current member of the Security Council, Jordan is contributing to world peace and security and spares no effort in seeking political solution to regional conflicts. Jordan firmly supported Security Council Resolution 2165 and 2191, which have allowed provision of vital humanitarian assistance to people in southern Syria. His Royal Highness Prince Ziad Riyad and Mr. Ahmed Al-Hindawi were appointed by the UN Secretary General to respectively promote human rights and youth empowerment on a global scale. I am proud to serve as a resident and humanitarian coordinator in this country, a country that is very dear to me and my family, and a country that has over decades proven its generosity and hospitality to people fleeing violence in the region. As stated in the United Nations Secretary General's message on the United Nations Day, and I quote again, "The world faces many crises, and the limits of collective international action are painfully clear. Yet, no single country organization can address today's challenges alone. In the past, as much as today, the United Nations does not leave Jordan alone and remains strongly committed to providing necessary support. The civil war in Syria is internationally recognized as the worst humanitarian disaster the world has faced since World War II. The Syrian people are suffering unimaginable devastation and trauma. More than 220,000 human beings have been killed. Nearly half of the Syrian population has fled their homes, and more than 4 million have become refugees. The impact of the crisis on neighboring countries is overwhelming, with serious threats to development gains made by a country like Jordan. Over the past years, Jordan took decisive steps to tackle the dual challenges brought about by the spillover of the Syrian crisis, protecting and meeting the needs of Syrian refugees, and strengthening the capacity of the government to respond sustainably and meet the development needs and aspirations of its citizens. Strengthening the resilience of Jordanians, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, can promote Jordan's development while providing refugees with a life of dignity and hope. As Albert Einstein once said, and I quote, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunities." And therefore I'm thinking, hasn't the Syrian crisis brought all of us together towards a common goal? Has it led to enhanced coordination among national institutions, the United Nations, donor countries, and civil society? I believe it has to some extent, but there are still immense challenges out there. And I commend at this point the strong leadership of the government of Jordan in making this happen in this part of the world. The crowning accomplishment of this strengthened collaboration is the Jordan Response Plan 2016 and 2018, presented just a few days ago. Shifting to a 3-year planning cycle, the Jordan Response Plan reflects the reality of the protracted nature of the conflict in Syria and its impact on Jordan. As such, we have supported the country in this effort so far. The United Nations in Jordan will continue to work to meet the expectation of the people for whom we work. It is for those people that we want a safer, more prosperous and equitable future. The recently endorsed 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development must be our guide in this direction. It is an agenda for people to end poverty in all its forms. It's an agenda for the planet, for prosperity, for peace, and for partnership. It conveys the urgency of climate action. It is rooted in gender equality and respect for the rights of all. Above all, it pledges to leave no one behind. The implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals requires a much more integrated approach. Governments must play a leading role, but alone, government's action will not be enough. We need action from everyone, everywhere. We need to empower our young people and civil society to drive the change that is needed. The private sector will also be required to play a more prominent role. Jordan has made commendable progress on the Millennium Development Goals in the past 15 years, and the inclusion of the Sustainable Development Goals in the Vision 2025 reflects the bold and forward-looking leadership of this country. And I recount the focus on no poverty, good health, quality education, gender equality, and clean energy are all key components of the Sustainable Development Goals. These and other development objectives can be achieved only if accompanied by a continuous democratic reform process, which I'm happy to see is at the forefront of the national agenda in this country. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while the challenges are great, greater is the opportunity for us to work together for a better world. Thanks for being such invaluable partners of the United Nations in Jordan, and thanks for coming to celebrate our anniversary tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Callan. I would like also to thank His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Naibat, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, for joining us tonight. And now it is a pleasure to welcome His Excellency Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh to join the stage. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
I don't have a speech to tell. I have a story which I would like to share with you. Once upon a time, there was a young man at the age of 16, and he met a handsome young lady, although some few years older, and they fell in love. The young man is Talal Abu Ghazaleh, and the lady is the United Nations. Your Excellency, our guest of honor, my great friend, Ahmad Fakhoury, Your Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, and a great friend, and my very good friend, Dr. Edward Callan, distinguished excellencies, distinguished colleagues, and my friends. How I fell in love with the United Nations is because I was a refugee looking for some kind of scholarship to go to the American University of Beirut. At that time, and still one of the best universities in this part of the world and in the world. And there was one scholarship for the top student in Lebanon. So being a poor, suffering refugee, I had to be the top student. And that's what I call the blessing of suffering. So I got that scholarship. Since then, I got very interested in the United Nations. And over the last half century, I served on at least 20 task forces, missions, assignments on the United Nations, whether in the field of economics, information technology, education, intellectual property, name it. In every field the UN is interested, except the political field. Everything other than politics I was involved in, and I will continue to be involved in the same way. As you can guess, I'm an old man. The UN is 70 years old, I am 77 years old. So I am older than the UN by 7 years. But that difference in age doesn't make a difference. You can love a person who's older than you or younger than you, it's the same. And I would like to say that the UN has moved very, very, at least from my perspective as somebody coming from the business sector, I was involved with the previous Secretaries General of the United Nations in introducing the private sector, business into the United Nations. And that was a great step. And that's how I was involved. I was representing my organization and the global business sector. The UN is moving further in that direction. And I want to applaud a very recent decision by the UN. The UN on August 28 this year announced it the day for partnership with the private sector. And I'm very honored to have been 2 weeks ago with Ban Ki-moon inaugurating and launching the first partnership between the United Nations, represented by UN Habitat, and the private sector of the world, represented by Talal Abu Ghazali Organization. And this is a real partnership, because we are two equal parties. This joint initiative is co-chaired by the United Nations and myself, and we are both working together for the providing sustained development of the global cities of the world through a process of using digital technologies for smart urbanization of the world. Now, I'm saying this because I think if we want a strong UN, we need a strong partner. And that partner is the private sector. And a private sector as a partner, not as a servant, as an equal partner like the United Nations has done throughout. I served in the past as UN task forces and UN assignments, but this is the first time in the history of the UN that we have a partnership between the UN and the private sector. I would like to say at this point that although I'm not happy, and we have learned in this country to be very transparent, I'm not happy with the PPP law, the private sector, public sector partnership law, because it is not a private sector partnership, public sector private law. It is a law regulating the relationship between the public sector and the private sector, and I have expressed this publicly, and I'm writing my comments on this law, which has been passed by the Parliament for amendment to bring the business sector as a true partner, like the UN did in this initiative, which I am co-leading with Dr. Kloss, the Executive Director of UN Habitat. Zena, I think as you put me in my capacity as music chair, everybody is expecting me to take the baton and conduct the orchestra. I can tell you that I'm not going to do that, because I'm sure you will throw at me everything you have to stop me. If I do, my relationship with music started only because, again, as a poor refugee, I had to work in a music shop selling long plays at that time. You know, all music was on this long play which was going around a needle. So I had to that as my first job, and I fell in love with music, and recently I'm being assigned to lead this orchestra by assignment from Her Majesty Queen Noor. So I am not at all a musician, but Zena, I want to tell you how much we applaud all what you're doing in this country under the leadership of the great representative of the UN. But you have been a great powerhouse since I met you in your assignment in Syria many years ago, and where we had great assignments together serving the Egyptian economy, the Syrian economy many years ago, although you're still young, but it was many years. So I would like to close by saying everything starts with love. And because I loved UNRWA, who was started only a year before I needed the scholarship. So I was the first recipient of an award or a scholarship from UNRWA. And I felt very lucky. And I felt how great it is to find something somewhere to love, because he has given you the chance to study, to get a qualification and start a career. That is why I enjoy today working with the UN agencies, all of them, every agency in the UN I have worked with, whether it's UNDP, UNESCO, all the agencies of the UN, I have been honored to have worked with them, and I'm honored to be part of this meeting. And I thank you for giving me the chance to address this distinguished audience and to tell you I love the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this inspiring address. It is now my great pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Imad Fakhoury, Minister of Planning and International Cooperation. Your Excellency.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Edward Callan, Humanitarian Coordinator and Resident Coordinator for the UN System, Resident Representative of UN organizations in Jordan, Excellencies, my colleagues, the ministers, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, my colleague, the Minister of Environment, and our colleagues from the Independent Elections Commissions, and many of our colleagues in government, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to be with you today to celebrate the United Nations Day. As we look at the great accomplishments of the UN system and organizations over the past 70 years. In this context, allow me to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to all the UN family for its effort in supporting the development process in Jordan ever since its initiation in 1945. Allow me also to convey the best regards and congratulations of His Majesty King Abdullah to the United Nations family, system, workers, and everyone gathered with us today, and to salute them for the great work, sacrifice that they have been doing over the many decades. The United Nations and its organizations have undertook a tremendous effort in uniting governments and people across the world in order to maintain peace, security, and to promote social progress, development, and better living conditions. The Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation is the United Nations key partner in their effort to promote Jordan's cooperation and relations with other actors in the international development community and across our government to improve the quality of foreign aid in Jordan, technical assistance, and capacity building. The United Nations country team in Jordan and its family of agencies are extensively engaged in a vast array of work that seeks to improve people's life, and they remain a committed, credible, and trusted partner of the government and people of Jordan. The UN strategy in Jordan is one that is clearly anchored in the country's goals and objectives, and is implemented in full partnership by the myriad of agencies that comprise the UN country team. Together, we look forward to sustained progress and sustainable results in promoting governance, development, and regional integration and stability that leads to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and the overarching national objectives of the government of Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jordanian government, in collaboration with the United Nations organizations, share a distinct historical relation where they were carrying out a number of priority development programs and projects aimed at supporting the development process, raising the standards of living, and promoting economic and social opportunities in Jordan, which is being reflected in raising the citizens' living standards and reducing poverty and unemployment. And that has always constituted the main challenge and pressure on the economy and our social growth. The continuous support received from the UN agencies has supported the government in the policy-making process that we do as government. And one of the support areas has been obviously the Jordan 2025 as a most recent example, which sets out our economic and social blueprint for the next 10 years. Recognizing the importance of the implementation of the outcome of the Jordan 2025, the government, through the Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation, with the collaboration of all stakeholders from the public, private sector and civil society institutions worked on developing the Executive Development Program for the upcoming 3 years, 2016-2018, which was inclusive of all the economic and social sectors with the aim of achieving sustainable development in Jordan. This huge effort was supported from UNDP and other UN agencies, and this is the type of partnership that we enjoy with the UN system as government in developing our development plans and implementing them. The enhancement of the policy-making process was accompanied with a detailed and extensive also transfer of knowledge to the government of Jordan personnel, which puts more focus on sustainability as well, yet another aspect that the UN agencies play a significant role in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to report that Jordan has achieved quite great results in terms of the Millennium Development Goals. The challenges clearly are real, and there is much more to be done. Gains are being made in poverty reduction, health, education, gender equality, environment, and much more. This effort is only part of Jordan's much larger national strategy, a comprehensive, inclusive approach to reform and development. The technical support, which has been provided by the UN agencies to help in achieving the development goals of Jordan by the year 2015, was a critical approach in our development. In addition to integrating these goals in the different development plans and programs, and this has been a very vital partnership between the UN and the government in the prior years. Having these accomplishments, Jordan also was chosen to hold consultations to prepare for the development agenda for 2030, post-2015, or the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm pleased to highlight that Jordan participated quite actively in the process that led to the endorsement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the post-2015 development agenda, from Addis Ababa with the focus on financing for development, to New York during September to endorse the Sustainable Development Goals, and we're working very hard as a government for the upcoming Paris Climate Change Conference before the end of the year, making 2015 a critical year to set the development agenda of the world and each country for the upcoming 15 years. We look forward to working in full coordination with the UN agencies to integrate the goals and the indicators of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals agenda and what comes out of Paris. And this will be a critical challenge for us in working together early next year so that we build all of these into our Executive Development Program or the national plan for the next 3 years and the successive plans that follow that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing today, as my colleagues who preceded me stated, especially Edward, one of the greatest humanitarian crises since World War II. Incomprehensible atrocities have left more than 200, possibly 250,000 people dead, close to 8 million internally displaced people, and over 4 million Syrian refugees who threaten to undermine decades of development progress in many of the neighboring countries who have generously opened their borders and maintained them to this influx of refugees, not to mention the needs of the refugees themselves. To date, Jordan is housing over 1.4 million Syrians who have sought refuge within Jordan's borders, placing tremendous strain and pressure on our country's social and economic systems and institutions. I think Jordan is no stranger to the UN system in terms of historically being the third country to have received waves of refugees over the many, many decades. The United Nations has been always and continues to be an invaluable partner in developing a befitting response to this unprecedented crisis and has advocated strongly for greater burden sharing by the international community and also greater support to Jordan as it continues to do this global public good on behalf of the region and the world. The upcoming 2016-2018 Jordan Response Plan represents a paradigm shift and a compact with the international community and with the strong partnership between the government, the UN, and the key donors to enable us to deal in a new approach with the ways that are needed to mitigate the humanitarian, host community, as well as government needs in addressing this crisis. Clearly, we have a very challenging year ahead as the government will continue to rely on its strong and enduring relationship with the UN in Jordan to deliver on the promise of the Jordan Response Plan and to integrate the Sustainable Development Goals and the outputs of the Paris Climate Change global event into our upcoming development plans as we remain committed as Jordan to continue implementing those. Allow me also to take this opportunity to salute the UN system, UN organization, and all the staff who work for the UN agencies for their tremendous global service to all the countries of the world. And we as government look forward to our continued partnership with the different UN agencies to work on our development priorities, to mitigate the challenges we face, especially the unique circumstances we are seeing unfold in the Levant region, and to focus on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, including all issues of sustainable development, social equality, investing in women and youth, gender, environmental protection, and many more. We look also to a very strong partnership and a continued one with a strong UN for a better world. And Jordan continues to be one of the largest contributors to the peacekeeping operations around the world. And this is just an example of how Jordan also gives back to the UN system as it also benefits from this great organization and its UN system and organization. But the world can clearly continue to count on Jordan in our great efforts in peace, security, stability, moderation and openness, inclusiveness, inter and intra-faith dialogue, fighting extremism and terrorism, and Jordan will remain committed, as you have always seen, to its homegrown, inclusive, comprehensive reform path. And as we continue moving along this journey, we look forward to our partnership with the UN and donor community and the Friends of Jordan. Happy 70th birthday to our UN family and UN system, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Before we move on with the program, let me thank and acknowledge the sponsorship that His Excellency Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh, Landmark Amman Hotel, Promozone, and Robina Studio have kindly extended to this event. This is really much appreciated. We are now pleased to show you an infographic video with some of the key achievements of the work of the United Nations in Jordan. Enjoy. Fulfilling a request by Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein, His Excellency Dr. Talal Abu Ghazaleh has committed all resources and efforts to promote the experience of music and provide high-quality performance by nurturing a generation of talented Jordanian musicians and partnering with worldwide leading orchestras and musicians. This is how the Jordanian National Orchestra Association, JO Orchestra, was created in 2014 to revive the music culture in Jordan. The conductor is Maestro Mr. Mohammed Siddiq, who is also a very known pianist, composer, and the director of the National Music Conservatory. The orchestra will perform for around half an hour, a collection of pieces and songs selected especially for this occasion, in a mix of Arabic and Western music, which includes We Are the World, Tango Comparsita, Fairuz, and others. Enjoy.
يساوي هالكون يا كل الكون حبيبي. شو معنى هالحياة؟ حلم ومالك ساعات، الباقي من عمري بهديك، وعمري لحظة بتناديك، امبارح وباقي لليوم ولآخر يوم حبيبي. أنا اللي منك أنت مني، لا لا ما تبعد عني، أنت أنا روحي، أنا أنت اللي ساكن، أنت اللي عارف إني لك وحدك مني. أنا اللي منك أنت مني، لا لا ما تبعد عني، أنت أنا روحي، أنا أنت اللي ساكنني، أنت اللي عارف إني لك وحدك بغني. الحلوة دي قامت تعجن في البدرية، والديك بيدن كوكو في الفجرية. يلا بينا على باب الله يا صنايعية، يجعل صباحك صباح الخير يا استعطية. صباح الصباح فتح يا عليم، والجيب ما فيه شي ولا مليم، بس المزاج رايق وسليم، باب الأمل بابك يا رحيم. ده الصبر طيب عال غير الأحوال، يلي معاك المال برضو الفقير له رب كريم، برضو الفقير له رب كريم. الحلوة دي قامت تعجن في البدرية، والديك بيدن كوكو في الفجرية. يلا بينا على باب الله يا صنايعية، يجعل صباحك صباح الخير يا استعطية. صباح الصباح فتح يا عليم، والجيب ما فيه شي ولا مليم، بس المزاج رايق وسليم، باب الأمل بابك يا رحيم. ده الصبر طيب عال غير الأحوال، يلي معاك المال برضو الفقير comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying, oh, and it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can go on pretending day by day that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We are a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, make a better day, just you and me. Oh, send them your heart, so they know that someone cares, and their lives will be stronger and free. As God has shown us by turning stones to bread, so we all must lend a helping hand. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, make a better day, just you and me. When you're down and out, there seems no hope at all. But if you just believe, there's no way we can fall. Let's realize that a change can only come when we stand together as one. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, make a better day, just you and me. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me. غرقت في المي، جدي صار طاحون الذكريات، يضحك شمس وفي. يا سهر الليالي يا حلو على بالي، غني 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 على التراب. غني على التراب.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends. I would like to thank Maestro Sadiq and the Joe Orchestra for their delightful performance. I'm pretty sure you all enjoyed it. So as our program is coming to an end, I'm pleased to invite you to join our reception. On your chairs, some canvas bags were handmade by rural women from the Jordan Valley under the framework of a UNESCO project. And please be reminded that this is a smoke-free event. I wish you all a pleasant evening and a happy UN Day. Thank you.